Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it is 11 o'clock. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. Let's start with the big story of the day, that is Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump, the adult film star at the centre of Donald Trump's indictment on criminal charges, says the legal process could lead to violence and death. Stormy Daniels told The Times that although she fears the reaction of Trump's supporters, this proves he is no longer untouchable. Trump is the first US president in history to face criminal charges over an alleged hush money payment made to Ms. Daniels in 2016, a week before his election victory. Of their potential showdown in court, Ms. Daniels added there's no way he could be scarier with his clothes on. Mr. Trump's lawyer says he'll plead not guilty. His former Vice President, Mike Pence, says it's an outrage.
It's clear to the overwhelming majority of the American people that this is nothing short of a political prosecution being affected by a Manhattan DA who literally campaigned on bringing charges against one particular American. And I must tell you that that should be offensive to every American, left, right, and center. Every American deserves equal treatment under the law.
The social media influencer Andrew Tate and his brother have been released from a Romanian jail on appeal, and they've been placed under house arrest until the end of April. Tate and his brother Tristan are being investigated on allegations of sexual assault, people trafficking and organised crime. The pair, who've been in custody since December, deny any wrongdoing. Neither have been formally charged. A man has been charged with the murders of a father and son in Cambridgeshire. Gary Dunmore and his son Josh were found in separate villages near Huntington, 40 minutes apart on Wednesday. The 66-year-old Stephen Alderton has also been charged with possession of a firearm and is due to appear in court tomorrow. The Prime Minister says Britain's new trade deal will help unlock the benefits of Brexit. The UK has joined 11 Asia and Pacific nations in a trade pact that will boost exports by cutting tariffs on things like cars, cheese, gin, chocolate and whiskey. It's expected to be worth £1.8 billion over 10 years, although critics say it will only boost the economy by 0.08%. Ukraine's foreign minister has described Wimbledon's decision to lift its ban on Russian and Belarusian tennis players this summer as immoral. They will now be allowed to compete as neutral athletes in all British grass court tournaments, including Queen's. Dmytro Kuleba, though, has urged the UK to deny them entry visas. And meanwhile, Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine will never forgive the Russians responsible for the atrocities committed in the town of Bucha. Ukrainians have been marking the first anniversary of the town's recapture after 33 days of occupation. International investigators are in the process of collecting evidence where Ukraine says Russian troops committed war crimes, a claim that Moscow denies. TV online, DAB Plus radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now, it's time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon and I'm joined by an impeccably diverse panel tonight. Josh Howie, a Jewish comedian who only eats meat, and Lewis Schaefer, a Jewish comedian who only eats meat. Good thing I'm a vegan Muslim or we might be in some trouble. Lads, how are you doing? Lewis, I hear it was your 75th birthday yesterday. I got the date. I got the thing wrong. It was your birthday.
It was my birthday yesterday. I'm thinking maybe I am closer to 75, but I look amazing, and that's the most important thing. On an all-meat diet, though, I might regret doing it.
Did you blow out the candles on just a piece of raw steak?
Do you know what? I spent the day. It was one of the best days ever. I spent the day with my good son, and
the one who still speaks to you, right?
The one who looks just like me, acts just like me, thinks just like me.
The one where you've done the DNA test. It is your son.
Not the really good-looking one.
Yeah, the other one isn't related. All right, anything to report? Just got a bit feisty last night, didn't it? It was a nice mixture of banter and genuine hatred.
That just encapsulates our relationship. Yeah. It's always funny.
I didn't mean me and you.
But it's always not. Do you remember when we got in a massive argument and then we were in the cab on the way home?
Yeah.
People were like, "God, these guys must really hate each other." And we were just really off next to each other laughing.
It's all showbiz, guys. All right.
No.
Okay, well, not with Lewis. All right, that was good. Let's get into Saturday's front pages. So, the Daily Mail has at last a deal to turbocharge Brexit Britain. The Telegraph goes with Biden to turn down coronation invitation. Try saying that if you're Joe Biden. The Guardian, Tories turning rivers into open sewers, says Starmer. That's not a metaphor for Britain. Apparently it's actual sewers. The Times, Trump will refuse to be handcuffed, vow lawyers. Interesting. The Mirror, O'Grady's legacy for the love of Paul, Starr's death sparks surge in donations for Dogs Home. That's the Battersea Dogs Home. And finally, the Daily Star, man-baby Trump's huge tantrum over charges. I question that headline, but all right, let's get into it. So let's kick off with the Daily Mail, Josh.
Yep, so they got a photo here of a very old, wrinkly man. Is it Lewis Schaefer? No, it's not. It is Rupert Murdoch. And his a massive ring that I guess that's his hobby, is just getting engaged and getting married. And maybe that's what's keeping him going. Respect.
Yeah. They just get younger and younger and it just sort of takes their soul.
I don't know, this one looks pretty old, to be fair.
Well, it's all relative.
What? Is that old?
Lewis
it is, really.
I'm just saying, if you're like this billionaire, whatever, you would think that he's...
You could go younger, you think, Josh? Remember you said you made a comment about a baby last night. That was pretty dodgy, so...
OK, let's do the main story here. At last, deal to turbocharge Brexit Britain. So this is, of course, the new deal that's gone on the Indo-Pacific bloc. And everybody is very excited. By everybody, I mean the UK government, because it's a sort of a proof of concept that being out of the EU has given us these massive opportunities, and it's great news. It's going to increase our GDP by 0.08%. So that's going to massively offset the 4% that we've lost.
Yeah, so Brexit's been worth it. It's been an unambiguously good thing.
I was wrong, everybody.
You were wrong. It's great that you can admit that.
Yeah.
We've got this and let's go to our Indo-Pacific Trade Pact expert, Lewis Schaefer. Lewis, what do you make of this?
Well, it could be something. I mean, it's more people getting together. You know, remember, Europe is a failing concept, and it's only one little part of the world, and there's lots of money other places.
But it's our direct neighbour, that's the point. Now we've got to go, send our stuff all the way to the other side of the world?
Exactly. And you know what? That's been a problem for China and Japan, to send stuff to the other side of the world.
No, that's a good point. But you know what? There are some things that haven't been discussed in this deal that are talking about, like the Malaysia to allow the UK in, that we've had to drop our requirements for them to stop chopping down their rainforests for palm oil. There's talks about killing of monkeys. Also, we've now signed. We've left. I know.
You just threw that in as an aside. I don't know what that was about.
But I couldn't remember if it was baboons or if it was like the orangutan. Is it orangutan? So even he knows about it.
This is why I voted for Brexit.
Okay.
So we can kill the monkeys.
One more thing that is we've signed up to some weird international court of this lot where companies can now sue specific countries if the companies don't get their own way. So you've got Canada suing America, you've got different companies in Canada. So arguably we've put ourselves into this other sort of court.
How is that different from the European Court of Justice?
Or whatever. It's closer.
It's closer, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. So the argument is we've entered a kind of different trading bloc, so it may not have, Brexit may have been pointless, essentially. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying, look, if this does good for our country, that's great. But it doesn't seem to be a massive shift. But Kemi Badenoch says that those official figures, which are from the government, are wrong, which I don't really understand where she's... Oh, no, those figures over there. No, it's not really going to be a minuscule amount. It's going to be brilliant.
But you're a bit of an elitist, Josh. Let's be honest.
What do you mean bit?
A bit. You're a complete elitist.
No, I was just. I'm just saying bit. I just meant yes. I'm a massive elitist.
Yeah. Sorry about that, but you did because you said 0.08%, as opposed to 4% 4.00%. And I didn't even understand that, and I'm sure the people out there, they're not...
OK, well, as thrilling as that bit about percentages is, let's move on to the Telegraph, Lewis.
Well, here's the good news. The good news is Biden isn't coming. And, I mean, this is what the Telegraph says, but the Telegraph doesn't know if Biden's coming at all. Or how does the Telegraph know?
It's a newspaper.
It's a newspaper.
It's their job.
But it says right here. It says right here. It says the Telegraph understands, and he may be sending. The fact is...
He's not coming. He's too busy not going to Nashville. He's got things to do.
Yeah, he's got things to do. I mean, it's true. He didn't go to Pennsylvania, right? He didn't go to the disaster in Pennsylvania. He didn't go to the disaster at the border. And he's not going to come to the disaster that's
He's going to spend a week in Ireland.
This was my
he's
joke.
Irish.
Sorry. He's getting towards a joke, Josh.
Okay,
it's his first one. Give him a chance.
On a piece of paper.
I had written it down.
Okay, go.
I had written it down. It said, didn't come to the disaster that is the U.S. border. Didn't come to the disaster.
Okay.
But you've written it down, so that was the joke.
What's the punchline?
The punchline is...
The disaster that is Britain.
That is Britain.
Right, so it's just you having a go at Britain.
Going against the narrative of this channel.
Yeah, on GB News, that your punchline is Britain is bad. And it's such a bad punchline, we didn't even know it was the punchline.
I'm trying to save your job. Jesus, okay. I'm helping you.
But basically, he's not going to... Let's face it, Josh, he's 80 years old. He's got to, pass out his trips very carefully. Is that what it is?
Let's say he's going to send his wife along. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, who's she? Someone he's married.
And, but we'll see. I mean, does it really matter? I mean, I know we're going to go all on it. We're going to go in on this coronation, aren't we? Big time. I'm going to have to wear a suit or something on the day.
You are going to go in big time.
Well, but maybe why didn't they send you? You could be the Americans' representative.
Yeah, I could. They'd probably be happy to see me. At least I know what direction I'm walking in, and I don't fall up the stairs. And the fact is, Dwight David Eisenhower, which was an American president when
we know,
we're not that thick.
He was one of the best presidents ever, and he didn't go to the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah, so there is another big story I would like to talk about, if that's okay, on the Telegraph. Okay. You can't read it. I looked up RAF diversity rules allow chest binders. Now, this is the RAF cadets, which is 43,000 cadets from 12 to 20, and essentially, people who don't know chest binders, this is for allowing girls who think that they're boys, essentially, to wear these binders. But these binders have been proven now to have sort of medical complications. They can hurt your ribs. They can affect your long-term growth and your back. Yeah. And the fact that this stuff has been pushed through by the RAF cadets, and also they've got another policy, which is that kids in the RAF cadets can use whatever names they want, and the parents aren't to be told this stuff. And they also recommend children to go. One of the sort of advice people they say go to check out is Mermaids, which is the charity that's being investigated by the Charity Commission, or it's an inquiry against it. So again, this is just one more example of another institution that over the last couple of years, and you wouldn't necessarily think RAF cadets.
Yeah, and you're so into the gender question, Josh. You found it so tiny, this story, but you've sorted it out. But you're right, the RAF, you're absolutely right, it's a terrible thing. And the other thing they've been doing is not allowing white people. If you're white, they don't want you because they're obsessed with diversity. But we have to move on to The Guardian, Josh, and sewers.
Sewers, yes.
Yeah.
So Tories turning rivers into open sewers. Now, there was a story in Telegraph saying how there are tough fines in the pipeline, get it, for sewage dumps. But again, this has come so long. We've talked about this story, and it's been building over the years, whilst billions of pounds...
Not the sewage, or the story or the sewage?
The story and the sewage have been going on now for a long time. And billions of pounds have literally, like 57 billion, have just gone out of this country, essentially, and
going to other companies.
Going to the companies and then going out to Shells, but also going up to, because it's owned by French companies and whatnot. Now they finally look like they're grappling with it, but Labour and Lib Dems, rightly so, are bashing Tories over the head with this because they're meant to be on top of it. The Tories, unfortunately, over the last few years, they pulled the money that was investigating how much was happening. And then when they did that, then coincidentally, suddenly all of the sewage stuff started going up into our rivers. So they're calling for the resignation of Kofi, the environmental minister. Is that right? Yes, yeah. And
Theresa Coffey, yeah.
Yeah, Theresa, yeah. And just saying she's not been doing her job properly. And again, it's just how this has gone on for so long.
It's gone on for so long because because this country built the most advanced sewer system in the entire world at one time. They just didn't think 100 years in the future to build the what do they call that? The drain for wastewater, runoff water.
Yeah, but the thing is, they have this thing called investment, which is what these companies have not done.
They'd have to build a completely separate water system.
OK, well, that's Sewagegate. Any take on the Mirror, Lewis?
Oh, the Mirror's amazing. This Paul O'Grady is he died, and he's totally beloved. So I know enough not to make a joke about this guy. He's got a super young boyfriend.
Oh my God, I can't believe you're talking about his young boyfriend.
Well, because
it's his husband.
It's
not that. Yeah, what are you trying to imply
about
saying
he's
him?
Rupert Murdoch?
I'm not implying anything about it. I'm saying that when you see me with a young, beautiful boy,
it's
I don't want
It's one of your sons, the one you don't like.
Yeah.
Okay, and he wants all the donations to go to the Battersea Dogs and Cats Home, which is anybody who lives in London has to take the train to Victoria, right past it, and it's prime real estate. The dogs at this place live way better than human beings anywhere in London.
I knew only Lewis could come up with an iconoclastic anti-dogs take, and that's what it was.
You're right, it's probably the most expensive rental footage per... And the dogs aren't paying any income.
No,
send them back. Why should they have that? Why should they have
the homeless dogs.
All right, well, unless you've got anything massively pressing to add, Josh, we'll probably move on. Unless you have something really pressing.
What do you... What?
I didn't want you to feel left out and email me after the show.
Sorry, I do have something massively pressing. Tesco's has Easter offers on page 2.
Thanks, mate. That was worth it. So that's it for part 1. But coming up, why China might not have been totally honest about COVID. Who knew? And we shouted at each other about Donald Trump. See you in 2.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Nick Dixon, and two comedians who are always available on a Friday night. It's Josh Howie and Lewis Schaefer. And they seem sad about it. Let's do the Daily Mail. And turns out China might not have been totally honest about COVID. I, for one, am shocked and appalled, Lewis.
Yes, well, we shouldn't be working on a Friday, the two of us, but we don't care. Anyway, is this more proof that Beijing hid COVID truth from the world? Doctors believe German man had the illness in December 2019, days before China raised the alarm. This is another one of those non-stories. What they're trying to do is it is totally
It's a huge story. It's a huge story.
No, it isn't a huge story.
Even Dr. Matthew Sweet is tuning into this story.
But he needs to know. It basically said that there was some guy in Germany who was old and super sick. He had a heart condition. He had high blood pressure, high heart rate. He was overweight, a smoker, and he previously suffered a stroke. And he was tested, and he had COVID before. But the truth is,
that's not what it says.
That is what it says.
He didn't say he had COVID before. What it says is they examined the x-rays of his lungs, and it revealed exactly the same pattern that turned out to be in COVID. This is obviously before lockdowns and all of that stuff, before even China had admitted that the thing had started.
So they didn't test for whatever this COVID
They didn't actually
is.
test for COVID specifically, but the
so
lungs.
it looks the same, but it could have been a million possible
But he'd never travelled to China, so the idea is it had been going in through December
and that's
at least.
the exact same thing that happened in the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu hit multiple countries and
China did Spanish flu.
And you were there, Lewis.
Yeah, back in the day. But basically, Spanish flu hit New York City and South America and all at the exact same time when there was no way it could have traveled that fast. It was just psychologically, it just suddenly hit people, and that's what this
But the point is, it reveals that COVID was there earlier than they announced, and probably even earlier than that if it was discovered a day before. And there was also a story that was on the Daily Skeptic. Angela Merkel was visiting Wuhan in September 2019. What was she doing there? So there's more to it, Josh. What do you think? It's true.
Yeah. Well, but what does that mean?
I'm just saying it. It's just out there.
What does that mean, though? What was she doing?
What was she doing in Wuhan in
I don't imagine
September?
building trade with China or something.
Nah.
Oh my God.
But I don't know what we can legally say. I haven't read the article.
I don't believe that. I'm going to go one step further. I don't even believe in viruses. This whole thing has turned me off. Whatever a scientist says, I do not believe.
Last night, Lewis didn't believe in water. He said it dehydrates you. Now it's viruses gone.
Keep this channel on the air.
Yeah, go on.
For balance. The point is that with this story is that there is more and more evidence coming out that like there was also some blood samples from an Italian lung cancer screening trial in October that tested positive for a coronavirus. There were sewage samples suggesting that virus in the city from January 2020, which is before obviously all the lockdowns. So all this stuff. There is a lot of evidence out there that it was out and around the world in the months before. Before China sort of admitted that it existed.
OK, well, sadly, we've got to move on, but just want to clarify, for broadcast purposes, we all believe in viruses and water and the People's Republic of China. So let's do the next story in The Telegraph. And Keir Starmer is flip-flopping on a policy position. That can't be right, Josh.
Yeah. Labour vows...
No, admit it, he flip-flops.
I'm a bit depressed about this.
OK.
Labour vows it will make it easier to change gender in policy switch. So it's not an exact flip-flop, but essentially he made some suggestions last week that he was like saying how it was crazy to go along with this policy that people weren't behind, referencing what happened with the SNP pushing through the gender self-ID laws in Scotland. And then today Labour put out this tweet because it's Trans Visibility Day, and this is the three things that they said. They said they're going to introduce tougher sentences for LGBT plus hate crime. That's a good... I mean, when you think of someone getting beaten up or abused, you think that's good. But then at the same time, there are people, certainly within the T+ part of it, who consider a hate crime to be being misgendered or whatever. So they've been very wishy-washy about this. There's another one here, which is modernise the outdated Gender Recognition Act. I'm sure there is scope to modernise it, but in terms of making it easier to does that mean self-ID laws, which is what Labour had previously, he'd vowed to do in the 2021 leadership election, or 20 leadership election, and that is obviously what took Scotland down. And then we're talking about male rapists and female jails. But this is the one that's the most sort of clear to me, and the wrong is, if the wrong is a word, they're saying they're going to ban conversion therapy in all forms. Now that is a massive red flag, because the point is, if you go for just what's called affirmative therapy, where someone goes in and says, I feel like I might be a boy or a girl, as opposed to what their actual biological sex is, usually there's a lot of underlying mental health conditions or other conditions, certainly including a lot of them being autistic. The point is that when you ban that, people would say that is conversion therapy. If you said, well, let's explore other issues, what are these other things? Then that is a danger of just pushing these children into medicalisation straight away. So it's a problem.
Yeah, and why is he doing this, Lewis? Because it's so unpopular. He obviously needs to bring in his own party, who sort of have all these radical lefty ideas. But it's so unpopular in the country. You just think, why is he going down this path?
Well, I think it's like you say. I think he has so many points ahead in the polls, and he thinks it's a sure thing. Let's try to make everybody happy. Let's make our own party happy by giving them what they want, and let's try not to alienate the other people. I mean, he gave the message on the International Transgender Day of Visibility, as if these women in their 6-inch heels, 6 foot tall, are not visible.
Good point. Good, and another good joke. I was laughing inside.
High five, Lewis. Yeah, baby.
Let's do the Telegraph, and DeSantis is standing up.
No.
And should we do the next story? Yeah. DeSantis is finally standing up for Trump. Better late than never, Lewis.
Well, he's not funny. He doesn't need to stand up for Trump. He's just the governor of a state. It's a different system than it is in this country.
With the extradition question.
With the extradition question, exactly. And so he says very, very strongly he's going to block the former president's extradition, because of course Donald Trump has been indicted, so he's going to be arrested. But the truth is, he can't do that, according to federal ruling in the U.S. Supreme Court from 1987.
He can delay it.
He can delay it.
For 60 days.
So he's somewhat posturing, but I love Donald Trump, and I would, if he was the only candidate, I would vote for Donald Trump. But he's not the only candidate.
I'm surprised he says. Who would you vote for now? You'd vote for DeSantis?
I would vote for DeSantis, probably. I think Donald Trump's day is gone. He's a great man. He will grow down.
He will grow down.
Grow down as one of the best presidents. I hope people don't believe me when I say it.
I'm taking it very literally. But yeah, it's interesting because DeSantis didn't defend Trump initially. People are saying he should defend Trump on this. He didn't. He attacked him. Now he seems to have realised politically that wasn't smart. Now he's coming out more boldly, a bit too late though, but saying, I won't extradite him. And that's sort of a show of support.
I don't remember, sorry. I don't remember DeSantis saying anything bad about Donald Trump. He didn't say, go Donald, go, you pay off money to porn stars.
He said a few little snide remarks about paying off.
By the way, Trump is the one who's been sort of attacking Sanders, calling him a mediocre governor and Ron DeSanctimonious and whatnot. And this is absolutely to try and just a cynical ploy to go, no, I've got his back. But Donald Trump will bite him in the end, like all scorpions do.
Yeah, but although originally DeSantis bit Trump because Trump backed DeSantis, he endorsed him, then DeSantis turned on him by running, and Trump sees it as a betrayal. But don't you think, Josh, I mean, you're going to disagree with me, but the whole indictment of Trump is politically motivated. It's a small legal question. It's that he cited legal fees when he should have cited it as non-disclosure money. So they're getting him on a small accounting technicality, and they made it into this big deal.
It's breaking the law. It's like
I know.
You're going to go about Al Capone and go,
yes.
oh, they got him on a small
No,
thing.
because that's disingenuous, Josh, because we know in life that you get like a ticket, you come back to your car, they've written out a ticket, they should rip up the ticket. We don't do things perfectly by law. Even Lord Sumption, a former Supreme Court judge.
We're not talking about a parking ticket.
No, we're talking about legal. We're talking about he filed it as legal fees instead of as a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah, which
it's
is
a technicality.
The law.
Yeah, but Josh, you're doing the sort of arguing equivalent of work to rule. That's not how things work. Biden's done. Hunter Biden's
it works
done worse.
by laws. We have laws. Yeah. You don't break them, and if you break them, you get indicted.
I wish you weren't so. Here's my simple question.
Okay.
This is a politically motivated. It's politically because they're looking for something to get him on. Do you accept that at least?
Yeah.
OK, so you accept it's politically motivated. Is it?
Fortunately, they've got loads to go on.
Is it good for the United States overall? Because won't this set a precedent where the next president does the same, and we get into this thing where
the next president does the same, I expect him or her to be indicted as well.
Yeah, I agree with you in an ideal world where everything is like perfect.
Where people follow the law. Yeah.
In the real world, this is going to be a Pyrrhic victory because it's just going to lead to a.
Well, the first thing they did in the minutes after the email, after this announcement, was to email out for more funds. The amount of times that they can mention Soros within their email is kind of amazing. The puppet master. No, it's not. The Soros, the globalist cabal. It's just dog whistles.
I said it's a bit silly. You said no, it's not. It is silly.
I see. Oh, you think it is silly?
Yeah, to constantly mention Soros doesn't help. It doesn't help.
It isn't. It isn't a dog whistle. It's a full-on whistle. It's like a shouting, "Hey, give us money." So it's not like secret under the thing. Yeah, they want money from you.
But you mean an anti-Semitic dog whistle? Or do you just mean... Because I disagree. I just think it's just that he's a leftist and he's just a boogeyman for that side. Yeah. But we can disagree on that. But anyway, we've got to move on. Let's do the Metro. And remember, crime doesn't pay, except in 99% of instances, Josh.
I know, this is crazy. UK, a haven for fraudsters where only 1% of cases result in charges. What have the police been doing for however many years? This is not a new issue. This was something that was already identified in 2017. It was a priority there. And out of the 900,000 instances of fraud in this country, and in England and Wales, anyway, 1% have resulted in a charge or prosecution. So not even like that 1% have actually gone to jail. That's just taken to court. And because of that, individuals have lost £5 billion. And the government, I'm sorry to say, I don't want to I'm repeating myself here, but they've dropped the ball, because what happened in 2017 between now and then, which might have distracted them from actually getting stuff done. And this is one of those things. They have this action fraud hotline, which is called the inaction fraud hotline, because they haven't done anything. It's very frustrating.
Right. Not a fan of the government. That's part 2 done. Coming up, Andrew Tate, J.K. Rowling, and a sorority house. Sounds like an amazing reality show. See you after the break.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island's story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight into it with The Telegraph. And an American is causing havoc in the UK, and it's not Lewis Schaefer. Lewis Schaefer.
I know. I couldn't even read this thing. I've lived in this country too long, and I care about the British people. I don't care about you guys, but I know how sensitive you are. And here's a non-binary California living in the UK challenges the High Court to make his gender, not gender.
His, her, they.
Her, they.
His.
He's binary.
Yeah.
He's not his. He's non-binary.
It's called Ryan.
Yeah. Non-binary. I don't even know what that means. A math term. And this guy, Ryan Castellucci, came to the UK in 2019. He's been here for less than 4 years, and he's just driving these people crazy by demanding that he be called not a woman and not a man. So in a way, he's just causing trouble for both sides. So this is typical American. He's a Californian.
It's annoying he's coming over, he's an American, causing trouble here. And you think, OK, we've gone so far left in this country, we'll probably go along with it. But for one factor, it's going to cause loads of paperwork. Yeah. And the judge is complaining, saying, we're going to have to change, there's so much legislation, can we just not do this? So we're so lazy, we might actually not do this, which would be a good thing, because it's nonsense.
Well, it is nonsense because, and it's actually, there's a positive to this person taking this to court, because non-binary identity is a made-up identity. It doesn't mean anything, and even non-binary people can't actually define it. It's defined as like a feeling. I kind of feel like a woman, I kind of feel like a man. Well, that's all well and good for you, but when it comes to actual laws, which this person is trying to change, then it becomes interesting, because when you try and create legislation to fit a feeling, it reveals then the emptiness behind this ideology.
And there's this really absurd quote here from the judge. From the appellant's point of view, the offence and bother of having to declare yourself a gender you've never been is just intolerable. It must have been. But what does that mean? He's now asking to be a gender he's never been because it doesn't exist. Yeah. He's saying that it's madness that people have fallen for this.
Because in California, but this could be, it doesn't make sense to me because I've lived here for too long, but maybe it makes sense because it comes from America. All the things that this country has fought against that turned out to be really good, like customer service, like ice cubes and ice, like
there was no war over customer
large
service.
Portions in a restaurant. When that came to this country, like something else.
Okay, so all the good American stuff, and you're thinking this is one of the next imports that's going to come over.
You know what it is? We don't know. Let's give the American guy a try. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, by just calling him American guy, you've just committed a hate crime.
And you've just, and you've contradicted your entire argument in classic Lewis Schaefer. We need to send some of these Americans back, Lewis, coming over here, ruining our laws. But before I get in more trouble, let's do the Mail. And the one problem I've always had with sororities is that they don't allow men, Josh.
Indeed. 7 sorority sisters sue University of Wyoming for admitting a trans woman who they allege has voyeuristically peeped at them while visibly aroused. And this is about a person called Artemis Langford, who's 21. He joined their chapter in September 2022. He's 6'2". Yeah. He weighs 260 pounds. He's
beautiful woman.
He is a beautiful, beautiful woman. He's trying to get to live, she or whatever, inside this house with this 50 women. And they say that he sort of turns up and they say he had an erection. They said that a few times he's had a pillow over his lap. Classic. I mean, I got a pillow over my lap right now.
That's how you know he's definitely a man.
That's how you know he's definitely. You got the Don't take away my pillow, Lewis.
Yeah, and it's a very American solution to this problem. They're suing, you know what I mean? And that's the great way of dealing with
again,
this.
it goes back to courts, because when it goes to the courts with this stuff, it shows some of the dangers here, or of just allowing a man into this female environment, a female space.
I'm a radical feminist now because I'm against this. It's so my views haven't changed, but I'm suddenly a feminist, Lewis. I mean, this is absolutely mad. And the people that support this, these like weird lefty sort of middle-aged men on Twitter that support it, like Jolly and Moore. It's so bizarre. Lewis, this is madness, isn't it?
It's madness because it's a sorority house. I've tried going into sororities many times.
Right, that was the first court case.
Yeah.
That's why you moved to the UK, isn't it?
And,
after you went to Panama, then...
And at the end of the day, there are 50 women in this house, right? Isn't there supposed to be like 50 women? Only 7 are suing. And the other people, I say let them in and do what women do, which is make the guy's life miserable.
And that's the feminist take on this, by the way, guys. You know what was amazing? And I'm just going to go to it here. This was incredible. This was basically the women who complained about this were told, if you have something to say about this that isn't respectful, keep it to yourself. It's like telling women to shut up is now progressive. Well, that's where we are.
In the sort of the gender critical people, they're called handmaidens. Those women who do that kind of thing, who are fighting essentially for male rights, the right for a man who's an intact, you know, physically got all his bits, he's got a pillow, and for him to go in and gawp at these women.
The only thing I don't understand, Josh, is it's often called misogyny, and I agree, like, if people are, like, assaulting Kelly J. Keane in New Zealand, it's disgusting. It could be called misogynist, that act. But is the motivation misogyny, or is it sort of this leftism, this woke ideology that's got out of control? You know what I mean? Is the motivation
misogyny has always existed on the far left. Always. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the Labour Party, they've never had a female leader. So it's always part of it, and the further left you go into like the Socialist Workers' Party, I believe there were some rape accusations that that were withheld and whatnot. So it's always been part of that.
Okay, well you'll be getting a few more tweets, and let's move on. And J.K. Rowling's production company has had a significant drop in profit, and I'm sure the Independent can barely contain their sick glee, Lewis.
Yeah, they're happy about it, and everybody's happy about it. Like the way they want to bring down this station. You know, GB News. They want to see J.K. Rowling fail because she said things she couldn't say. And the story is that her production company is down 74% drop in profit, and this is her. It doesn't produce those books. What are those?
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter, yeah.
Wow. Most famous book in the world. What's that book called?
Someone didn't read it.
It doesn't. It's all the other stuff, because this woman is the most incredible woman. And I met her. I did an actual show for her at the Dominion Theatre many years ago. I was actually quite good. And I met her, and she's an amazing, amazing human being, not just a woman.
No, she is. She's one of the only people who's actually sort of given away enough money to get her out of the billionaire status. So the idea that she's now being attacked somehow as being far right or a bigot for fighting for women's rights, but that's a separate thing here. The funny thing about this story is, and it does mention it later down, is the reason why these profits have dropped predominantly because of COVID and the lockdown and the money that came in from the theatre, from this Harry Potter theatre show. But at the very end of the article, they managed to get in 2 transphobic. The book that she had has a woman who's killed after being accused of transphobia, and then also something about the BBC, they failed to challenge a guest who called her transphobic. So they got, well done Independent, you got the whole transphobia thing in there somehow. And it might be pointed out that the computer game that is based on Harry Potter, which is
Hogwarts Legacy,
massive success. People absolutely love it. I was around at a friend's house the other day playing, and it's an amazing game. I mean, you know, for geeks.
All right, so shout out Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah, it's another cost of lockdown. They've tried to sort of make it something to do with transphobia, but it's not. But all right, I think we've covered that story. We all love J.K. Rowling. Let's do the mail now. And free Top G used to just be something Josh posted on his Twitter, but now it's actually happened, Josh. Top G is free. It's a great day.
Top G, finally, Andrew Tate, his brother, and 2 of his angels are released on house arrest from Bucharest jail amid investigation into alleged human trafficking, rape, and crime gang offences. They've been in jail now for 3 months. I believe they went to court earlier on in the week for this house release. It didn't happen, but they appealed it, and now that's it. So they're now under house arrest, and the charges are. What is it they're being holding for?
There's no charges.
Oh, there's no charges.
They're under investigation.
That's the whole thing. They just held them in. There's this sex trafficking
investigating
claim.
them for sex trafficking.
Yeah. But they just held them there. It's this very strange thing. They've held them there for 3 months.
They haven't been formally charged yet, but they're there for trafficking charges, sex trafficking charges.
No, they're not there.
No, they're investigating sex trafficking charges and whatnot.
Thank you, Lewis. And of course, I've met Tate. We met him here. He seemed like a nice guy to me. I've never believed he did this. I believe, he did webcam studios because he talked about it a lot. I never believed he did human trafficking or anything like that. Hopefully it'll be proven, but for now they've just been let out on house arrest. Your take, Lewis?
My take is that you're actually speaking to somebody who's been human sex trafficked. I was brought over to this country to do
what?
To do comedy.
To conceive your children.
To do punchlines.
To be the mother of my children. Okay. Yes.
Apparently we've got the Tate tweet. Sorry to interrupt, Lewis. Can we see the tweet? He's probably done on his brilliant. It's the South Park one. He says, "When I'll be proven innocent, I look forward to help create the greatest South Park episode of all time." Yeah, because he's gonna. They've done a South Park episode about him, so you've made it.
It's a very Trumpian tweet.
No, but I don't think he had a phone in order to make a tweet like that at that time 13 hours ago. He's just been freed recently.
No, he's been sending out messages.
No,
he's been tweeting, and has been saying, "How have you been tweeting?"
Exactly, he doesn't. He's in that Bulgarian, Romanian jail. He doesn't have his phone sitting there being recharged with a wire. He doesn't have a phone. He doesn't have a phone. I mean, the thing about this story is he gave young men hope. Okay, which is why I don't like him, because there is no hope. It's the death of love. They want to crush people's. And what
you keep saying the death of love lately. What does it mean?
What does it mean? It means that these kids today cannot make enough money. They can't get a Bugatti of any color in order to, in theory, attract a wife. They can't. The people out there, my kids' age, the young people, they can't buy a house. They can't get a house.
I see.
And so they barely have a job. Do you think some woman is going to want a guy who can barely get a job?
So you think he's giving young men false hope? I think he's been quite inspiring for young men. And he's given a voice to, we're all told masculinity is evil. And obviously the reason he's done so well is he gives another side and says, maybe it's not inherently evil to be a man. But we don't know about the charges, but he's out on house arrest, which is a good thing. And hopefully he'll do my podcast when he comes out. It's called The Current Thing. So that's part 3.
Oh my God.
But coming up, what? It's a great podcast. We just had Winston Marshall on.
Mover.
Yeah, you've got to promote. What colour's your Bugatti, Josh? That's part 3 done. But coming up in the final... it's a car. Coming up in the final section, let the host speak. King Charles's plastic ears, a woman gets in trouble for changing in a changing room, and the sickos who refuse to wash their hands after peeing. See you in 2 minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's start with the Mail and something never before seen in this country, tasteless patriotic merchandise, Josh.
Cruel King Charles costume with plastic ears goes on sale weeks before coronation. So it's got a crown, it's got a long red and white and black robe, and it's got these plastic ears. Now, as you say, there's a tradition within this country of this kind of merchandise.
We love it.
The idea that this has become a story and people are really sort of whining and complaining about it and saying it's bullying and whatnot, I think is indicative of how our culture has changed and become incredibly annoying.
What you're really saying is it's a non-story.
No, I don't think it is a non-story. I think it's actually a very indicative story of where we're at as a culture now,
right,
where you can't take the mickey out of someone because
I know,
they're big ears.
This is so ridiculous. Bullying is not acceptable on any level, one person said. Is it really punching down when it's the king?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, if you can't have it like pop with the king. Anyway, we love the king, of course, but you know what I mean? We've apparently got the picture of the ears, have we? Can we look at that? There we go.
Yeah.
That's not King Charles. That's the man modelling the ears.
Yeah.
And it's,
I can't believe I lost out on that job.
Huh?
Can't believe I lost out on that job. No audition for that.
I think the bigger story is the fact that, you hate to say it, but King Charles is no looker. I never realized how really proper ugly he was.
How dare you?
Oh my God.
He was good looking, especially as a younger man.
You want to get fired, mate, don't you?
He wasn't good looking, which is why he had problems with Princess Diana, which caused all the problems.
No, we'd just like to apologise for Lewis's about on GB News. You can't call the king ugly. We're just hearing that we want to apologise for that. Yeah, no, we don't really have to apologise.
But very handsome king.
So that's your point, Lewis. That's all you've got on this is to insult our great king.
You know what? I don't think he's great.
I think immigration's going to be knocking on your door in the morning, mate.
He hasn't proven himself.
He has to prove himself to Lewis Schaefer.
Yeah, he's only been in the job. You know me. I'm an American. I'm an anti-royalist. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
right.
You can be whatever you want to be.
I don't think it's coincidence that you have really nice small ears.
I think that the worst thing about this country, I shouldn't say this, is the royal family. I hate to say it.
How dare you?
People listening, please forgive me.
Send them back. That's what I say about these Americans. We're going to have to move on, Lewis, before you just get banned from this channel forever. Let's do the Times and the heathens trying to poison our English breakfast with hash browns, Lewis. Yeah. Doesn't belong in there. What do you think?
Well, that's the American story here. It's basically they've done a test and they found out that people, on one side, the English Breakfast Society says that hash browns don't belong. Historically, they don't belong. They've only been around since 1982 in this country when McDonald's brought them over. And what we think of a hash browns is not real American hash browns anyway. Real American hash browns are basically almost like bubble.
Okay, I will say that hash browns have actually been in this country since Victorian times, but that's fine.
They got
popularised by
Then it didn't
McDonald's.
exist. If Americans didn't eat it, then no one ate it. Anyway, so on one hand, the English Breakfast Society says don't eat hash browns. On the other hand, 60% of the British population thinks that hash browns are the McDonald's-style hash browns. are the best thing about the English breakfast.
And integral.
They don't belong in there. I mean, they don't belong. Fried bread should be in there. Okay, black pudding, even though it's awful, has to be in there. Or it can be in there. Hash browns, I've never even heard of this. I mean, my dad's a chef, and traditional English food, I've never heard of hash. I like hash browns, but they don't belong in the English breakfast.
I think they absolutely do, and according to, going along with 60% of the public. There's two interesting things in the story. Number one is that traditional British English breakfast, as we know it, only actually is a post-war creation, or just that's when it popularised. 1930s, but it got popular post-war with the sort of greasy calves and whatnot. And the second thing is that we have that there's such a thing called the English Breakfast Society.
Yeah, I'm a member.
That's the terrifying bit. Oh, really?
That's why I'm right.
No. And also, they say when they were asked about baked beans, because obviously they're not part of the traditional thing, they said we're not going to go there right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
because
more to come.
Because they also come from America, baked beans. In tomato sauce, that's a complete. That's the Heinz, whatever it is, people. Baked beans.
We've nailed that.
High sugar causes diabetes.
Had to get that in there. Don't get gout. Lewis, sadly we've got to move on, but thank you for that.
Everyone can do their shots now.
Let's do drink Lewis Schaefer drinking game. Let's do the mirror. And a woman tries to get changed in a changing room. Has feminism gone too far, Joe?
A woman gets warning for being naked in swimming changing room. So this is an ocean swimmer. She's part of like some surf club. This is in Australia, and they put up a sign, supposedly a few weeks ago, saying, "Don't go nude."
Yeah. You've got to put your towel there, like in neurotic, and kind of switch over really quick.
You've got to shower in your bathing costume. And you've got to also, cover yourself up when you're changing, whatever. And they're saying it's to protect children. And this is just a ridiculous...
Just how neurotic society's getting. That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, so she's just basically quit and said, this is ridiculous.
Lewis?
I think
I'm scared
when I noticed myself, I think
you went there and saw it, didn't you?
Is that kids today don't see their parents being nude. And they don't have, they're not in homes with a male and a female, so there's a chance that there's very little nakedness going on, natural, normal
we've only got
nakedness.
one bathroom, stroke, shower, stroke, whatever, so you just got to do it, you know. It's like, you need to go have a poo.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not getting out of the shower for it.
Right.
You know.
Can I just tell you something?
Please.
That's when you tie into your Patreon link by saying we only
I don't have a
bathroom.
Patreon link. I don't
you
have that level
only have
of
one
hustle.
bathroom in your house there.
Yeah, it's a flat.
Yeah, but he owns his house. Let's not be too sympathetic, because I'm never going to be able to own, and most people aren't. Let's do the Daily Star with the most disturbing story we've ever covered on this show. The freaks who don't wash their hands after peeing, Lewis.
Yeah, you would call it a freak because you are mental.
How dare you? For washing my hands.
When Lewis Schaefer calls you mental, you are mental.
For washing my hands. And everyone knows. It's the one thing, out of COVID, it's the one thing that's proven to actually make a difference. And I am an obsessive hand washer, but I also probably never had COVID. I had something maybe in 2022, might have been flu. I never had it. Obviously didn't get the vax, didn't wear a mask, but washing your hands is what it's all about.
That's actually not true. Hand washing can stop you from having certain food-type diseases.
Are you a hand-washing truther as well, Lewis? Water dehydrates you. Viruses don't exist.
The point
hand washing is bad.
I'm not saying you shouldn't wash your hands.
Thank you.
But this woman says she doesn't wash her hands. She basically told the entire world she doesn't wash her hands, and that's a really bad faux pas. But the point is, you don't need to wash your hands as much as people are washing their hands. That probably actually causes more problems by reducing.
Okay, but that's a slightly separate thing. But certainly, as someone said to her, well, what about don't you touch the toilet and various other things? But the weird thing is, she says, oh, what I do is when friends are visiting, is I turn on the tap and I wait in there for a while. You're like, well, just wash your hands if you're going to do all of that.
But out of principle, she won't put them under the water.
Yeah, so you're wasting the water.
But most people, you've been in bathrooms, a lot of people do not wash their hands after they pee.
Did you see the photo of the original?
Sadly, we've got to finish. It was brilliant story, but we've got to move on, guys. That's pretty much the show. But let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. So the Daily Mail has, at last, a deal to turbocharge Brexit Britain. The Telegraph goes with Biden to turn down coronation invitation. The Guardian has Tories turning rivers into open sewers, says Starmer. The Times, Trump will refuse to be handcuffed, vow lawyers. The Mirror, O'Grady's legacy for the love of Paul, Styles' death sparks surge in donations for Dogs Home. And that is pretty much it. Oh, no, we've got the Daily Star, sorry. Man baby Trump's huge tantrum over charges. I don't agree with that headline, so I wanted to skip it. That's all for our show tonight. We're back tomorrow at 11. Thanks to Josh Howie and Lewis Schaefer. Or if you're watching the 5 a.m. version, stay tuned for breakfast. Good night or good morning.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Co.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes & Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB